Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. Thank you for staying for this learning session about knowledge dissemination. I'll speak to a short practical overview of knowledge dissemination and how to ensure that research reaches the people who need it in ways that they can actually use. Before we get into the details, I want to briefly establish why I'm talking about this. I've spent significant time working in knowledge mobilization, and what I'm sharing today is grounded in real projects based on on best practices. But first, a story. When our son was first diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor in 2002, and the neurosurgeon said that a shunt was necessary, my husband was distraught. He's a highly educated German engineer, and medicine is not his thing. The nurse practitioner sat down with him, showed him images, explained how the shunt would work, and yet that did not reach my husband. So then the NP gave my husband the shunt book. But my husband read the book cover to cover, and his anxiety about the shunt melted away. For the record, I've never even picked up the shunt book because that's not how it reaches me. This diagram, really quickly, is just to illustrate that knowledge dissemination is just one part of knowledge mobilization. I'm sorry that it's cut out on that. It's cut out everywhere. Okay. Knowledge dissemination, it is intentional. So you can see that beaker on the right. If ink is dropped into that, it is forever changed. And think of your dissemination like that. Your published paper can reach a larger audience. I want you to think of who might find it interesting, who might find it relevant. Ultimately, sorry, I can't tell what you can see or not, but this is all about knowledge dissemination done correctly. Ultimately, we're all here because we want to help patients, survivors, and families. If research stays confined to the research community, then nothing changes. What you are doing needs to be shared, and it needs to be shared widely in order to increase the impact. Shown here is Melanie Barwick's knowledge translation template. This is considered to be the golden standard. It's only here for context. You can find it on SickKids website if you type in knowledge translation. We're certainly not going to go through the whole document, as that would take far too long, but I highly recommend the training offered at SickKids. Today, I'm just focusing on 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's the who, what, why, and how for your knowledge dissemination. And we're starting there because likely at this point with the ACCESS projects, you've already settled 1 through 4. And now you're looking at how to actually disseminate what you've been finding. So for this portion of the session, please think of a project in which you are involved. We'll start with, and then for the thought exercise here, start with the knowledge users. Who is it that actually needs the information that you have? They can include this, the knowledge user groups can be patients and families, policymakers, researchers, and the general public. Each of these groups have different needs, different levels of background information, and different ways that they prefer and are able to receive information. Next are the main messages. These must be audience focused and concise and should always be understandable by the people that you're targeting. Next, we move over to goals. It's important to be explicit here. What are you trying to achieve? You might be trying to share knowledge, influence policy, inform decision-making, or maybe even supporting commercialization or technology transfer. Different goals require different dissemination strategies. There's no single answer that works for everything. Oops, preview. Okay, and now into strategies. And this is only after you've established your knowledge users, your main messages, and your goals, should you consider what the strategies are. It might be a storybook, whiteboard animation, infographic, policy brief, and at the very least, a plain language summary. One example I brought here is it's a storybook about biomarkers. There's a small project group at the Ontario Molecular Pathology Research Network, of which I'm part, and we kept hearing biomarkers. And a lot of the patients and families I know, they don't know what biomarkers are. So we determined that we could bring complex science into a very accessible form. So this is in print and it's online for everybody. So that's just one example of aligning the knowledge user groups, the main messages, the goals, and the strategies. A lot of dissemination fails not because the research is weak, but because the message, audience, goal, and strategies don't line up. And this misalignment leads to wasted time, effort, and resources. As you leave today, ask yourself who needs the knowledge from your project. What is the main message? Why do they need the knowledge? And how will you best disseminate that knowledge? And this is it. I don't know if you can make it out, beyond traditional outputs. So all of these are considered non-traditional outputs, except of course that the academic paper there. Consider to the auditory learners. Podcasts can be really helpful. So your work, your research is important outside of the science community. Ultimately, we're all trying to help patients, survivors, and families. Remember that what you're doing needs to be shared with that broad audience. And I'll leave you with this. Thankfully, knowledge dissemination is not an overly complicated process, but it must be intentional.
Not time anything, okay?
Yep.
We've done hopefully. Hi everybody, I'm here today as one of the other co-leads of Knowledge Mobilization Group to share collective efforts to try to map out the childhood cancer community so that we can help you maximize your impact. Today, there's many different co-authors, many trainees have been part of this collective body of work, and so we wish to acknowledge them and thank them for their contribution. Along with the 20 members of the National Advisory Council, some of who wish to remain anonymous, but I will disclose them here. People, the participants who participate to date in our knowledge mobilization needs assessment. If not, start scanning the QR below. And the children who have contributed to date also to the creation of a knowledge dissemination tool that we're trying to create. Our first publication out, which was the scoping review, really maps out that our knowledge mobilization needs are complex. We face many different barriers. And on the right is just an example. Once you get that open access publication published, start scanning the QR code like myself, download it, start sharing it so you can really manipulate that all-metric score and really go global with your body of work. Our needs really in the area of information and communication, training, education, management, and support. So in the end, please help try to simplify your messages to address the largest need, which was the info and communication. We have multiple barriers here that are listed in figure B as well for you guys to think through as you're going to be unpacking this in your body of work. Very important in the efforts to mobilize knowledge, you need to identify your audience. And so this is where reach out to ACCESS, to our community. Big Let's Connect, help us identify all of the different groups that we need to connect with. We've listed many here. There's many more I know, but please keep on sending them to the Secretariat so that we can connect in. We systematically identified the 25 non-for-profits in pediatric oncology here in Canada. And with that, we went to find out how are they disseminating knowledge. Everybody's on social media. So that would be number one in terms of dissemination. Number two is that they're contributing to blogs. So simplify your message, contribute to a blog. And third would be part of an in-person event. We're going to push you a little bit further. If you have a trainee coming to your lab this summer, please get them to do an infographic, a video, or a podcast. By the end of the summer, register for the CIHR Child Health Competition. Submit it. Come November 1st, the competition goes national for voting. So please try to start targeting that as well. And also only about 30% of the information that is being disseminated in Canada is available in French. So please start using DeepL at least to get you going, okay? If you want to have a global reach, we mapped out, to date, we've identified 145 pediatric oncology civil society organizations. And this is alongside the body of work that SIAP has already done to identify all the hospitals, the clinics that provide care. Their top ways of disseminating knowledge, social media, blogs, videos, pamphlets. And so here is, we mapped out all the social media platforms that these organizations are using, with Facebook being the top one. But I'm going to alert you to Blue Sky because everybody from X is leaving and going to Blue Sky. So that I anticipate that's going to start going up. And Snapchat is not here, and my daughter actively uses Snapchat. So we have to there's other platforms. Help us identify the onco-influencers. So we have one in the back room. We have many also in this audience. I didn't list everybody, but text me and let my phone go on fire and start telling me who are all these onco-influencers. We're going to systematically start mapping this all out so that we are able to come back to you with who are all of the onco-influencers in the social media space to help maximize your reach. Follow ACCESS because we don't have a really good social media profile yet. And then ACCESS, please follow us. So it's mutual exchange and Emily told me for every post you make, you have to share 5. So please get on board. And this is where we really need your help. We had a very difficult time to recruit children affected by cancer. And this is any child with cancer, their siblings, their peers, their friends, their hockey players, the children. We really want to know how they want research to be disseminated to them so we can validate the tool. And then once that tool is validated, we give it back to you so you can consider putting it into your study to tailor your dissemination strategy if you opt to try to communicate and share with the children. Finally, we have Sonia Castiglione, who is a member of our team. She's with us every Friday. She is a knowledge broker, a superb expert, well beyond CIHR. She was probably one of the very first to contribute to the initial KT documents. Please complete the survey. Consider having an interview with her or within your within your leads, within your themes, book a focus group with her. Share your needs so that we have a better understanding of what you would like so we can put the structures in place and help prioritize. Finally, we have C17 here. sign up for them because they do a lovely job of disseminating the publications that come to us that are published in Canada. For our basic sciences especially, there's the Jargonizer, which will tell you all your jargon. And then that will help you simplify your voice. I have a few cards left from the body of research that Leandra Desjardins from Saint-Justine lab. There's an example of videos about transition. I have a few, so I'll pass them around. But so that they're a lovely example of how you can get the word out. So there we're at. Last groups keep asking us for this slide. So I'm gonna leave it there. And if you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for either Karen or Argerie? Any questions?
They're tired.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Argerie. So you mentioned the use of blogs as being an incredibly important knowledge dissemination tool that we should all be using. When I think of a blog, I think of people having blogs. What if you don't have one? What should people do in order to utilize blogs to their advantage to disseminate their work?
So you may have individual people who blog, and then there are different other mechanisms where there's blog spaces as well. So strategically on who your audience is and how you want to, so you can partner up with someone who is doing the blog and ask, hey, I would really love to contribute to your blog. Or there's certain efficient mechanisms. I know, for example, McGill, the McGill Global Health Group has a blog. And so there's ways to contribute to that. If not, a really great way is for ACCESS to say, do we collectively decide to create a blog space? Or amongst these 25 non-for-profits, if there's one non-for-profit who's already doing such an excellent job and already has the structure and the writer and everything, not partner with them so that we start really facilitating that exchange. And we know that this non-for-profit is really good at doing blogs. Let's go to that route. We know that there's this group of people who are doing excellent in these types of dissemination strategies. I don't want to recreate. I want us to leverage what we already have and to build on it and maximize it. Yeah.
I had a question. So I agree, like, it's really, really important to disseminate the knowledge that we create. Otherwise, like, why create the knowledge, right? In some university departments, a lot of the academic promotion criteria is still based on hard metrics of how many publications and like the impact of it in terms of like impact factor and all that stuff that really doesn't necessarily correlate much with the actual true patient impact of the research. Are there efforts in other places to get university departments to recognize the importance of social media and not the traditional metrics of like you have a paper in whatever journal?
I can say yes, because when I submitted my tenure dossier to McGill, I submitted a music video. So yes.
You're doing it wrong.
Yes, but I'm offering you Frontiers for Young Minds. The first step, remember at the last meeting, you take your published paper, you rewrite it for a lay audience, but you have a trainee do this for you, right? So you either submit as a new discovery or a core concept. It's peer reviewed, published open access, and it goes on your CV as a publication. So it counts for your tenure and check publications, right? So I'm offering you something that really in the ones who are still thinking can't get out of the box, I've offered you a solution there. Yeah.
And that's exactly what we need to fill the survey. And then with that, if you are assessing barriers, you want to understand, yes, we need to do all these things for real world impact, but what is the institutional support that people actually have available? Like what does it actually look like?
Emily, do you mind saying that a little bit louder so we make sure the virtual contingent hears that?
I don't know if I can. That's exactly why we need you to fill out the survey, is because we're told to do all these things and we know that it's important, but on the other hand, we don't have time, we don't have institutional support. And so if we can actually capture what this actually looks like for us in our day-to-day academic lives, then we have the data behind it to make strategies to present to academic bodies that this is what we need to do, but this is our actual support across the
At University of Toronto, they have something called creative professional activity.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a reasonable, a good attempt to capture non-standard metrics.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I feel like behind the scenes, there's still like, oh, you got this many pubs.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, we still have the outdated thinking, but when I was a trainee here, way back, Catherine Boydell was already trying to push that forward. So whether or not at U of T it's reached the ears of everybody, I don't know yet. But I can tell you at McGill in dentistry, we have Christophe Bedos, who has a comic book course. So with our comic book course, we sent our trainees to take that course. We're creating comic strips. So we just have to strategically line these up and recognize what's your bandwidth, what are your resources, and especially leverage the trainees that are coming to you. You don't have time to do this, but you have a trainee who probably has some hidden talent there. And I'll give you an example of PJ. PJ came to me, first year medical student, wanted to do research with no research experience whatsoever. But I looked on his CV, he used to teach children with disabilities how to swim. So I said, well, PJ, you know how to talk with kids. I said, write me a Young Minds Frontier. And he did, we got it published. So it's trying to map it out, what do you got, what's your turnaround, and so that's why I like your needs assessment, do your thing, and then you come to us as a group. And then we can troubleshoot potential strategies. If you want one-on-one, no problem, but then what would be helpful is if we have a collective voice here, then we can really start prioritizing the different structures we want to put in place. And we go deal with the tenure track people.